Hi there, how are you doing? Welcome to my channel, Naga Kannada's Dev Tips. And this is the fourth and final video of the four-part video tutorial in which we're discussing about image upload functionality using plain front-end JavaScript and Node.js backend JavaScript. Let's get to it. In the previous three videos, we've seen the demo, we've seen the technologies used, we've seen the intention and the purpose of the videos, and then we saw the front end UI part, the CSS and markup, and then we saw the front end JavaScript where we are handling all the drag events and select events, on change events, and previewing the image and all that stuff. And then we also saw the Ajax call that is happening to the backend where the base64 encoded string content of the image file is being sent to the backend. If you have not seen those videos, I would highly recommend you go and watch them before coming here and watching this one. The links to those videos are there in the description below. Here we are in the server.js file. This is all we have for the entire backend that we have set up, including the server for the for the application. So before we go through this file, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about Node.js, and well, I guess the history of backend can be easily marked as before Node.js and after Node.js. Of course, there's still a lot of competition out there from the likes of Python, PHP, or even Java. But in my opinion, in its short lifetime, Node.js has touched every average developer's life in one way or the other. That's my opinion. So trying not to get emotional here, but a good thing that happened to the JavaScript community is Node.js. Definitely, it's a good thing. And that's why we're using Node.js all our examples, because basically we're trying to learn web technologies, but we don't want to go through the hassle of building a backend, and also it's very difficult for a web developer to get good grips with any of the existing backend processes. So why not use the JavaScript that we all love and share, right? So in the backend as well. So that is why we're using Node.js. Node.js also provides this packaging support. We have millions and millions of successfully developed packages, some of which are quite popular. For example, ExpressJS is go-to application for handling the routes from the front end. Every front end will have some sort of a back end which supports and provides an API or a microservice of some kind, which it can absorb in the front end and use it as the middleware. So that can be easily achieved using Express. And we're using something called body parser, which is internally used in Express to actually do some changes to the incoming requests, which we'll have a look at in a moment. And we're also using Bower, which is another package similar to the Node Package Manager, but it is actually for the front end. It's having its own configuration file called bower.json, and we can install dependencies, and it's going to install them in the bower_components folder. And so we're actually, I mean, as I mentioned in the previous videos, only using Bootstrap, and jQuery is a dependency of Bootstrap, so we're including that as well. And also we're using jQuery for the Ajax functionality, but it's up to you to use the XHR functionality or the newly added fetch API in ES6 version of JavaScript in the front end. So we are handling, routing through ExpressJS and the dependencies of the front end through Bower, and we're of course using something called NodeMount for our, for actually, restarting the server automatically whenever we're changing any of the server-side files. Okay, coming to the server.js file. So we have a bunch of imports or pointers to various packages. The Express is pointing to require of Express, which is the common JS way of importing a package into our file to use it later on. And then the path package is built-in package in Node.js, which we can use to actually, okay, actually I'm going to remove that because we are not using it. So the FS package is in the file system package, which is also a core Node.js module, which we can use to actually write to files, read to files, and all that file system related stuff. And we are actually importing body parser, which we are using here for certain things, middleware for the Express. And we're getting the app that we are actually using here, using Express as a function, syntax. And then that's all. So that's about it. And here at the bottom, we are actually bringing up the server using, setting the port, using the .listen method of the app. And then it'll take a callback as a second parameter. And in the callback, we're actually calling the logging a statement that says the port server is up and running on 3000 port. And then for the Express middleware, we're doing a couple of things. One is actually handling the route, which we're doing over here. And the other one is we're implementing something called express.static. Okay, so the main reason we're using express.static is because we want the client-side files to be statically delivered to the front end. Right, so whenever I say client.js, it has to statically give that file instead of passing it as a JSON response or something. So this express.static method is quite useful in those scenarios. The line number 8 actually handles all the front-end customized code. And line number 7 is actually delivering the Bower components as if it's inside the libs folder. So this is an optional parameter that we're sending so that whatever we're accessing inside /libs goes and checks in Bower components folder. So if I come to index.html, you can see that the files, the vendor files are being fetched from the /libs folder, and Express is going to recognize /libs and it's going to point to Bower components, and from there on we're actually going to follow the folder structure inside the Bower components folder. And that is about statically delivering the files. And then we can use body parser as a function to actually pass some properties and send that to Express. And this limit property is especially useful to limit the size of the requests that are coming in to 1 MB, because we are sending huge chunks of information in that base64 string, right? So we have to make sure that the server knows that it's expecting the huge chunk of request body. So we're using this limit property. Otherwise, it's going to throw an error saying that the incoming request is very huge. So we have to make sure that the application is aware that it has to expect that kind of size. But we are limiting to 1 MB, but it's up to you to limit it to 500 KB, because that is what the limit we gave for the files that are being uploaded. So if you look at the client.js file, we have this limit being set over here. This is 500 KB. So you can set something similar to it, but I'm setting it to 1 MB just to make sure we're not having any issues there. And then we're using body parser.json to actually convert the request body to a JSON object. And then we are using a URL encoded for our traditional form submit events. And then on line 15, this is where we are actually creating the route, and there is only one route because we don't have any other routes or any other functionalities. This is a very simple backend, right? So but as you expand the backend and as you build up on the app side, on the front end side as well, you can have more and more routes. You can have separate files for routes, and then include them and target those routes. All that can be done in Express, but this is not a tutorial on Express. We're just trying to focus on our demo. The request.body, thanks to body parser, will have all the properties that are coming from the front end in the data object right here. So we're going to get the file, and if it is not empty, it means that we're getting a body, a string of base64 format. So we're going to get that string, and then the name of the file is going to be the name property we're passing over here, and then we're actually replacing that little string that is there just before the encrypted string that says data colon image png base64. All this this part can be actually removed in order to save that file, so we'll just replace it with an empty string. And then we're using write file sync to actually write that image inside the images folder. We're giving the complete path of the image, and then we're giving the resultant base64 encoded string, and then the optional third parameter is the options object, and in that we have the encoding, which we'll specify as base64. This is very important because we know that we have a base64 image string, so we have to make sure that the encoding when we write it is going to be base64 so that it'll write properly and render it correctly when we are reusing that image. And the write file sync is a blocked method or blocking method of the file system package. So it's the counterpart of the unblocking write file method. So the write file sync method is actually going to stop the execution and make sure it writes the file completely into the file system before the next line executes. In our case, the next line is response.send of uploaded string. So this will not happen unless the file is written there. We can actually handle any errors over here by enclosing that in a try catch block, but it's up to you how you want to handle it. But once that is done, it'll come out of the if condition and it'll say rest.send of upload. Actually, this can actually go inside this one because we're only doing this when there is a this file property. So yeah, so that is how we're handling the route, and that is how we're actually saving the file. It's quite simple. We just have to read that string and use write file sync method of the file system fs module and write the file, and the encoding has to be base64. Well, I really hope that you liked this video and all the videos in this mini tutorial where we talked about the image upload functionality using plain JavaScript in the front end and Node.js in the back end. And in Node.js, we used ExpressJS for our routing. And if you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Share this video and this playlist to your friends and colleagues so that they'll get to know that this is going on. So I'm planning to do many such mini tutorial series and also some helper videos on special tips and tricks in the front end side on on JavaScript, CSS3, HTML5, and various frameworks and are going to be coming in the future as well. And I would like to help all of you out there with the common problems, with the common scenarios where people tend to get confused, and all those scenarios. I would like to do videos to clarify all those tricky situations. So I've also created a Medium blog post for this mini tutorial. So everything you saw in all these 4 videos is going to be there as a written version with screenshots and all that. So the link to the GitHub repo is also provided there, and the link to that Medium post is going to be there in the description of all these videos, all the 4 videos. Do check that out and give me some claps if you liked it. It's a very detailed one, so it's covering all the 4 videos that I did for this video tutorial series. And do subscribe to my channel so that you'll get notified when I upload new content, and you'll not miss out on any of them. And also follow me on that Medium channel so that I'll be able to share more tips and tricks over there as well. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.